So welcome back to UK Fatman. Today we're at Upton Park Station, Green Street, which is or was the home of my beloved team West Ham United until May 2016. So we're going to have a little revisit. This isn't a movie film. There has been a couple of movies that have been filmed in and around Upton Park and Green Street, most notoriously Green Street, where Elijah Wood, Frodo, an American guy decided to try and be a West Ham hooligan, walk down the road, and in more recent times when the ground was actually closed, they closed the ground down, and Dave, I think it's Battistutto, the green guy from the Marvel films, saved the stadium from terrorists. But this is a film about me just turning up one day and just having a little walk round. Hope you enjoy it. So the Queen's Pub is where many a West Ham fan would start their experience on Green Street before a game, having a couple of pints in the Queen's. And I have to pay homage to Sycamore, Bossum and Brown Sycamore laundries and dry cleaners, because just here was one of the best signs ever. It was a big clock, and it was a dry cleaners, and the sign said, "Don't kill your wife, let us do it." So, you know, probably a sign that's not particularly PC in this world, you know, implying that it's only the wife that does the cleaning. But I used to love going past that sign, "Don't kill your wife, let us do it." And if you can imagine a match day coming down here, thousands of people, sometimes away fans on this side of the road, West Ham fans on the other side, and a line of police or a police cordon in between. And there has been examples of, most notoriously in modern times, there's quite a big bust up with between West Ham fans and the police, and Millwall fans just outside the Queen's Pub. But Millwall aren't so much of a thing for West Ham anymore, just because we don't ever get to play them because they're in so many leagues below us. So that's kind of quite amusing. So I've already had one parking ticket today, so I'm a bit conscious of getting another one. Yeah, so on a match day, we'd come down this road here, and often you'd get away fans coming down here, often coming behind you, and you'd approach on an evening, this alley here. This is kind of like the final stretch towards the ground, and it could be quite dark, quite worrying, quite scary for some people, I'm sure. And you'd hear that hustle and bustle and of the crowd, and you'd hear the noise getting gradually louder and louder as you approached closer and closer to the ground. And of course, this has all changed now. This just to the left here used to be a major bus station, all housing now. It used to be a major bus station for London, and you'd come round and you'd enter Priory Road, which would be on your ticket if you was a West Ham fan or you was an away fan. You'd all start to mingle in this general area. You'd see the lights, the stadium lights would start poking up here, and we'd see the back end of what used to be the North Bank before it was redeveloped, and then it became the Centenary Stand, and eventually the Sir Trevor Brooking stand. And that was all down here. You'd see all the police, you'd smell the burgers, you'd feel the atmosphere, you'd hear the chanting. The away fans probably hear a bit louder at the moment because that's where the away fans would be coming into this corner up here. And again, this is where the stadium, the corner of the stadium would be. The north end of the stadium would run alongside here, and all down this way there'd be stewards, there'd be police. If it was a big game, Man United, Arsenal, Tottenham, you'd have a massive police presence. And so me and my pals and my sons, we would come down here. We had season tickets for many years in the Chicken Run, and along this line would be all the entrances to the turnstiles would be along this line here. Over here you'd get a kind of flow of people coming from East Ham and Barking, whether they've been to the pub or the working men's club, which is around the corner. They'd be coming through here, getting to the ground. Depending on the type of game, tensions would be rising. You might even see a few fist fights. And we used to I'd sat quite a few different places in the Chicken Run. So there was some turnstiles here we used to come in when we sat at the north end, which was right next to the away fans. Used to be really good fun. We had seats there. When I very first started coming, I was standing up, used to stand up in the Chicken Run. And the Chicken Run was on the east side of the ground, but it also in the east stand, the lower east stand. But originally the Chicken Run was actually part of the lower part of the west stand. But when that became seating, the Chicken Run became known as the lower east stand. And this, technically, you'd be coming through the turnstiles. This would be a turnstile here, and you'd walk through the turnstile. There'd be bar areas, probably about here, grotty toilets behind us, and I reckon around about here would be the edge of the pitch. So the pitch would stretch all the way from this side all the way down, and technically now we would be on the pitch, walking along on the pitch, pretty much in the centre of the centre circle, probably probably around here, I would have thought. Maybe this is it, maybe this is the development's homage to West Ham. You wouldn't know, but this is probably round about the centre circle of the old Boleyn ground, which West Ham left May 2016. It was here for 114 years, I think it was, 1904 to 2016. Just up here, you'd have the West Stand, the big double-decker stand, with all the boxes. All the players would come out, probably, I would imagine, pretty much in line with where we are now. The players would run out onto the pitch and do battle with whatever team we were facing, be it Man United, be it Tottenham or Arsenal or one of the big teams, or for many, many years when I was watching, it'd be a second division side or a championship side, Hull,
Barnsley. You know, I started going 88, 89, properly. I'd been to a few games before then. I was 18. Started going into the South Bank, and it's kind of sad. As I said earlier, a real trip down memory lane this, because this is the first time I've been back here since we left. In 2016, we beat Man United 3-2 on a very glorious and emotional night, which, you know, the fans that were there, I'll tell you, you know, will never ever forget it. And it's been a very kind of difficult period for West Ham, but at the moment things are looking a little bit more promising. People are, I think, are getting a little bit more used to the stadium. And when we first moved into the stadium, we'd had such an emotional and actually successful year in our last year here, that when we weren't performing, I think the change to the new stadium just kind of magnified the teething problems that the stadium had. You know, I don't think people would have been as disappointed and upset with the stadium if the performances on the pitch had been better. And I love these flats here. There's pictures from games in the 70s and 80s where you've got people, you know, gathering around windows or on the roofs. Used to stand up here, and sometimes you'd be able to see people who'd be standing up on these, there's garages on the other side, and there'd be little gaps in the stadium. It wasn't like one of those modern stadiums where, you know, you can't see absolutely anything. You'd be able to, there'd be little gaps in the stands that you'd be able to maybe get a little peek. And so many away fans used to say how intimidating it was to come here, especially on an evening game when it was dark and, you know, big match, you know, something to play for, or whether it was one of our local rivals like Tottenham or Millwall, Arsenal, Chelsea. And then you'd get the northern away teams, Derby County and Stoke and Burnley, Leeds. And that kind of, the atmosphere, I can feel it now, and I can smell, as I say, smell the burgers. And I think here, it's pretty much, here would be the end. This would be the South Bank, where many fans started their love affair with West Ham. On the South Banks, where a lot of the trouble used to, because the away fans used to be in the far end, in the west side of the South Bank. Home fans just separated by some fencing and some stewards. You'd have the West Ham fans in the South Bank, and you'd have the away fans in the South Bank as well. But when it was redeveloped, it all kind of switched round, and the away fans went up into the North Bank. And this used to be just here. I'm sure someone will correct me if I got it wrong, but I'm sure it was called Bonzo's Burgers or Bonzo Burger. There used to be a long queue up here, and they used to sell massive French sticks with burgers and sausages, be about as long as your arm. And it used to be one of those kind of funny ones where you'd have little, they used to have like gherkins and onions and tomatoes that you used to be able to kind of put on yourself. Used to be quite novel back then. And then we kind of reached the end of Priory Road and the Barking Road. That fantastic mural there. Two West Ham, absolute West Ham legends, Billy Bonds and Trevor Brooking, Sir Trevor Brooking. Fantastic ambassador, stayed with West Ham his entire career. Billy Bonds started off at Charlton. We signed him as a youth, I think about 17 years old. And he played to the age of 43. And was absolutely phenomenal player. I only got to see his latter years. Same with Trevor Brooking. It's Saturday morning. And that sound was a sound you would often hear quite a lot on a match day around these parts. There'd be big queues outside this fish and chip shop. There was a pie and mash down here that I think has long since closed down, or closed down not long after the club left. And there's been a lot of changes in the area. Obviously, when you get a football team moving out of an area, the economy and the local economy changes. Gone are the fast food shops and the pie and mash shops and the cafes. And there'll be many people who watch this. If you're a West Ham fan, you'll know the world famous Who shop, which I think was originally situated in East Ham, the Who shop, and I think they moved down here to bigger premises, selling all kinds of sci-fi gear, Doctor Who memorabilia. Award-winning retailer, official Doctor Who merchandise for 35 years. It's kind of funny, isn't it? It just kind of feels a bit, for me, a little bit kind of out of place for where we are. You know, one of the most, well, the most culturally, ethnically diverse the most ethnically diverse parts of the United Kingdom. The most diverse. And there's I think it's about 50,000 people that live in and around Green Street and Priory Road. And it's like a new fish and chip shop opening. So despite the fact that things have changed, maybe Erkan's has closed down, but the club has left, and there's not as many people here on a Saturday and on a midweek for 9 months of the year. Of course, given the amount of development and housing that's been built in the club's place, then obviously you've got maybe a different market and a different type of clientele to cater for. So the club was actually sold 2 years, so the ground was actually sold 2 years after the club left in 2018. And that was...
Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me. Don't lie to me.
There's a bit of an argument going on. Bit of an argument going on there. Saturday morning rouse. What was I saying? The ground was sold for 40 million, which some people thought was on the cheap. And I suppose you could say it probably was on the cheap, but I'm not going to comment on the benefits or the owners. There's a lot of criticism of the owners. Yeah, so down at the south end of Green Street, the Boleyn Tavern, which was closed for a bit, but seems to have reopened again. Maybe a bit of a gastro pub now experience. It's not open at the moment. And actually an interesting fact about the Boleyn was that Gandhi used to go in there with when he used to live in London. He lived in London for a bit, and he was quite friendly with the West Ham United owner, Arnold Hills. And he used to go in the Boleyn Tavern and have a cream soda, have a drink of cream soda. He used to go to a few games, and there's an interesting story. He went for tea with Charlie Chaplin just down the road in Canning Town. So Gandhi was a hammer and liked to drink cream soda, probably the only person around here who would drink cream soda in the Boleyn. And actually, I got a fridge from here once. It was £40. I just bought my first flat, and it was the second time that I had been there, because the first time I had £40 to buy a fridge, and there used to be a club shop in the on the forecourt of the ground, and I went in there and there was a reproduction oil painting of the ground, so I bought that instead of a fridge, and I lived on tinned. I got a toaster, so I lived on beans on toast, pot noodles, and tinned food for a while, which was quite a laugh. But that's the Catholic church, and the main entrance to the West Ham's ground was basically where this building is now, where this block of flats is, and the away coaches would turn in here. There's a very famous incident at our very last home game on this junction. The game was delayed. There was thousands and thousands of people blocking the path of the coaches, and the Man United coach, as it tried to turn this corner into Green Street, was pelted with several items, which wasn't our proudest moment. The media went to town on it, and yeah, the game was delayed, and they had to come in there.